you have any questions, feel free to seek them out. So up next, we're going to dive deeper into experimentation and testing. So Jon Meck joins us from Bounteous, where he is a senior marketing director, helping others learn about Bounteous's cross-functional capabilities and teaching customers how to get the most out of their tools and partners. Jon will be leading one of the breakout sessions tomorrow, so look for him there. What his pet peeve is, I thought was quite funny, and also I suffer from, is that when he goes into Netflix. You can all probably relate to this. And you scroll through and spend 5-10 minutes just looking around at what you might want to watch. And then you go back to, in his case, just a West Wing rerun.
Just give up.
You just give up and you're like, I'll just watch one of these again. I like this show. Too much choice, maybe.
Too much choice?
Too much choice. Come on up. There you go.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. So we got a little minute here while we switch over the slides. So I've been testing something in my personal life when I speak on stage. The test is, how do we engage the audience, right? You've probably seen a couple examples today, left hand, right hand, things like that. There's one that I really like, and I've settled on it as a winner. I don't have 95% confidence, but I'm going to test it out here. So what I need you to do is just make a little bit of a woo. Just go, woo. All right, that was nice, right? It's just, you don't have to do a lot of effort. Your neighbor doesn't have to stare at you with your arm up in the air, right? It's just a little bit of a woo. So if I say, how many people here are planning on going to the happy hour after this? Look at that. We're ready to go. Slides are up. Let's keep going. So about the happy hour, I will be there. And by the end of my talk today, I will have given you 4 things that you can talk to me about at happy hour if you seek me out. 3 are fun and 1's work, so you can choose. Today we're talking about testing and prioritization. Just a quick about me. I work for Bounteous. How many people have ever heard of Bounteous? Woo? Not a lot of woos for that one. Bounteous, we rebranded last year, so maybe you've heard of some of our other companies. I'll share that in a little bit. We create big picture digital solutions that help leading companies deliver transformational brand experiences. So you heard from some great companies today, and they're out there doing the work on their websites. We get to help those big companies set up their teams and get everything running smoothly. We are organized in integrated teams. I like this slide a lot because I come from the analytics and insight background. I love data. I'm going to talk about that just a little bit more today. And when we do projects for customers, whether we're rebuilding their entire website, helping them launch marketing campaigns, drive growth, or whether we're just launching a personalization team internally or helping them with their analytics setup, we're using these cross-functional teams. And all of the teams that we listed here, experience, design, marketing, development, data, strategy, all of these are going to come into play when we think about A/B testing and personalization. This is me. I try not to wear the same shirt whenever I speak on stage, although it has happened more than once. It's my favorite shirt. A little bit about me. I love marketing. I like the event side of marketing, the content side of marketing. Happy to talk to you about that. Oh, that's not one of my 4, though, so don't bring that up. I'm a GMP fanboy. I love the Google Marketing Platform. That's not the only tool that we use internally, but I come from the Google side, and so I love it, especially as they roll out the new products. We've had the pleasure of testing the new products, using them before everyone else and kind of figuring out the bugs. So super big fanboy there. And Excel is the greatest tool in the entire world. If you agree with me, say woo. Oh, look at that. These are my people. I love Excel and Google Sheets. We'll put it out there, Google Sheets, and I'll explain the differences between the two if you want it. Happy hour, that's one of our topics for happy hour, spreadsheets, the best tool in the world. I don't have time today. That's not my session topic. However, I wish it was. I want to say that I have the best job in the world. I'm going to tell you about that, why I have the best job in the world. 2 reasons. 1, my boss is in the audience. Number 2, I get to travel all over the world. And with that, I get to do a lot of fun things. See, I have a hobby. I like concerts. So when I travel for work, I go to a concert. I use this tool. I don't know if you guys have heard of Spotify, right? I think that's how you say it. So I'll say that I'm going to New York on Monday, the 29th, and I'll look up what concerts are in the city. I'll throw them all into a playlist. I've never heard of most of these bands, so I'll pick the one that I like the most, and I'll go out to a concert. So I've been to now, counting last night, because I went to one last night. 33 concerts. I've seen 65 different artists. It's been a really fun experience. I make a little playlist. I used to print the copies and hand them out internally. Burn a CDR. You guys remember that, right? So I used to call it the Luna Meck Mix back when we were Luna Metrics. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that was kind of rolled up into our new Bounteous brand. So I get to go to concerts, and it's really fun. Let me tell you about some of the things that I get to do. And you'll notice that I have lots of photos here. So these are all from bands that I've seen. I get to travel around North America. I help run our Google Marketing Platform training program. So we teach a lot of companies here. So we teach big companies, small companies, and I get to talk to them about the challenges that they face. So we've been talking about these big companies today and the challenges they face. We know that these challenges run across the board. And so how do we get people to increase their adoption internally? How do we get them to grow their culture? We put together some of those tips for you guys today. I've been a trainer myself. I helped to create the Google Tag Manager course. I love Tag Manager. We were just having a conversation back there a little bit earlier. And I get to go on site to clients sometimes and lead the in-house personal trainings. I get to work one-on-one with clients. So I started in the analytics practice, and I've moved into the marketing side of things. I get to help with analytics and marketing strategy for our clients. And it's really been fun to watch some of our clients grow into long-term success stories. And I get to test out all the shiny new toys. This is why it's the best job in the world. These are really fun, by the way. So when there's a new product, I get to try it out. It's not just the Google products. I get to try out the Adobe products, Acquia, Salesforce. So it's really fun. So why do I go to concerts? I do a lot of talking when I'm traveling, and concerts are a really nice place for me to listen. When we talk about testing, I want you to be thinking about listening, okay? So today we're going to talk about what do we test, how do we prioritize it, and how do we scale as an organization. What do we test? So the tech curve has shrunk tremendously. We heard a lot about Google Optimize today. Again, I'm a fanboy, so I'm going to tell you I love Google Optimize. I like the other tools as well, and they've all come down in terms of price, and they've all come down in terms of technical capability needed to run a program. Right, so now we're no longer limited necessarily by price or tech. What we're limited by is our imagination. We can do anything on our website, so what should we do? Well, let's talk about how we get some ideas about what to do on the website. Google has a great resource called the Optimize Hub, the Optimize Resource Hub. So I used their hub and I pulled some of the resources off of there. And even there's a couple different viewpoints. So you get to pick and choose the one that you think will work best for your company. So when we're thinking about running a testing program, we might be doing that already internally, but we might want to ramp that up. So we've got a couple different options. One advice that Google gave in the how to build a culture of growth, the advice was to go slow. So the quote here is, start simple. Begin your testing with insignificant things, not major changes. Give yourself a safe space to learn. You don't want your first test to change or break your whole platform. That's very good advice. I like that a lot. I'll offer a different point of view as well, though. Right, there is that tech that you need to understand at first. You need to know how to use the tool. You need to make sure you're comfortable with that. You definitely don't want to break your website. But you may also need to go big. So Bounteous helped Google create this playbook called Enhancing the Customer Lifecycle with Google Optimize 360. My coworker Michael helped with a lot of that. And he wrote, you're not just testing users, you're testing the validity of the experiments to help your company move the needle. Simon from Spotify just kind of chatted about that, and he said, now that they've started to have success, it's really started to take on a life of its own. Right? So when we're thinking about how we implement testing internally, we need to make sure that we're picking something that is going to make an impact and help grow our company. So how do we do that? I think you've heard some of these tips before. So some of this is a little bit of a repeat. We're going to get the band together. Do you guys get it? We're going to concerts. We're getting the band together. It's hilarious. Just say woo because I told you to. Woo! Thank you. So we need to get our band together. We need to think about the teams that need to be involved. So we've heard a couple of these: customer service, analytics, marketing, UX. Think about who in your company should be involved in helping to suggest tests, choose which tests are most important, and help you even design and implement those tests. So tomorrow we have a fun worksheet that we get to fill out where we put together our band or our superhero team. The challenge here is that if we don't include enough people, we might start to get biased in what we choose to test on the website. Of course, we've got our marketing person who's going to say, well, I'm running these ads. I want to make sure that the ad messaging matches what they see on the website. I want to improve my conversion rates. I want to be able to spend more money on the website, get bigger budgets. That's what I like, of course. But if we consider some different viewpoints, we might see someone on the e-commerce or retail side that's really focused on getting bigger cart values or a better checkout or coupon adoption. On the UX side, we might be looking at more customer-focused things. So the experience, button colors, things like that. How are people moving through our website? Ideally, all of these things are connected, right? If we raise one ship, the other ships are lifting. What's that? All boats are lifted. So if we are working together and choosing our tests, we're including all these different viewpoints, and we're making sure that they're helping our site. So how do we identify our testing potentials? We listen. Who do we listen to? Everybody. And I think we heard this before from some of the other speakers. We need to make sure that we're asking our customers what they want or what we can improve. I'll flip that and say it's almost more important not just to ask, but to listen. Okay, so we can listen to our coworkers. We can listen to our users. We can look at our data. We can listen to that and say, where does the data suggest that we focus? We can listen to our customers. We can listen to strangers. Has anyone ever done the guerrilla marketing test where you go to a coffee shop and you show them a website, say, check out my website, I'll give you a $5 coupon for coffee. You get such great feedback in just a short amount of time. It's a perfect way to spring something new on someone. The Sephora, Andrew was chatting about unmoderated testing online. That's another great option to get feedback from strangers, right? If you're too much in your own bubble, you're going to be repeating some of the stuff we know. We know that cart, that's a cart, because we looked at the icon, it looks like a shopping basket, right? So we need to get outside of our own bubble. We need to be listening to everyone else. Got a quick case study for you here. I'm going to throw a few of these in. We worked with a leading home security company that wanted to update their landing pages, right? So when we think about listening to our users, another tactic is to make sure that we're focusing on our different segments of users, right? This is a great mobile case study that we had, which is they needed to make their websites better, their landing pages better. And what we realized is that their page was following a responsive design. So if you moved from your desktop to your mobile, the site flowed perfectly. Everything moved to where it was supposed to go, but we were delivering the exact same experience on desktop and mobile. The same content, just reordered, right? That wasn't really what we needed. That isn't what our customers needed. What they were looking for was an easy way to reach out. And so what we did is use Optimize, and we just moved the Contact Us button all the way to the top of the page. So we moved the form to the bottom and the phone to the top. We said if they're interested in research, if they're interested in learning more, they're going to be on a desktop. But if they're on their phone, they have a different intent. We saw a 68% increase in phone calls. It's one of those things, if you ask people to call you versus not asking, of course, we're going to get more people to call us. But this is a really great case study for them. They really appreciated the more leads. So how do we prioritize? All of that was talking about ways to get testing ideas. So you get all of these testing ideas together. What's next? How do we prioritize? Who here likes podcasts? Woo? Woo? All right. This is something you can talk to me about at happy hour as well. I don't like podcasts. It's one of those contrarian viewpoints where you throw it out on stage and people are like, what? I also don't like breakfast, so feel free to come and talk to me about that as well. There's a great podcast called Freakonomics if you like that sort of thing. They did an episode that asked, what is the best exercise? Now you could probably start thinking about it. I'm not going to ask you to call it out, but think inside your head, what do you think the best exercise is? And they went and they asked a whole bunch of scientists this question. I bike, I run, I know what I think the best exercise is. Trick question, the best exercise is the one that you do. You guys are like, that's cheap. The best exercise is the one you do, right? So all the scientists agreed they would not agree. They wouldn't pick one thing and say you have to run. What they said is you have to be doing something. I know this is kind of a cop-out. Let's talk about frameworks. So if you are doing testing internally, if you're thinking about doing testing internally, we need a way to determine which one we should be doing first. Simon gave a great example. He talked about the ICE one. There's a couple other frameworks. I'm putting them out here. I'm not going to say which one's better, but what I'm going to say is if you're not using a framework, you should be, right? What you should be able to do is take a big list of experiments, whether you're using a Google Sheet, whether you're keeping track of it on Post-it notes, and you have to be able to rearrange it in order of priority. So how will we assess that? Again, if we have a marketing-led team, my priorities are probably going to go first. If we have a cross-functional team, we might get into a bit of an argument. So we did make it less personal and more quantitative. So let's put it into a framework. Let's agree on something. I like the PI framework because I like pie. Potential, importance, and ease. Right? So potential, how big of an uplift do we estimate we'll get? That's a little hard to put an exact number on. It doesn't have to be exact. It can just be general. Just big, little, small, something like that. Importance, how much traffic does this page get? I really liked the password reset page example that we gave earlier. The home page, of course, is where everyone's going to start. But of course, marketing pages and landing pages are really important too. And ease. Let's bring the developers into this. Which one's the easiest to do? Can we do it with Google Optimize? Do we have to bring in a more robust tool, right? We've got the ICE framework, impact, confidence, and ease. All of these are great things to look up afterwards. ICE was created by Wider Funnel, so there's some great articles out there about that. The Pixel framework, this was created by Conversion XL. This one's a spreadsheet you can download and just start putting numbers into it. I really like this one because it talks about how did we discover a particular issue. Did we get it from qualitative research? Did we get it from our data? There's another component that they include in there, which is it above the fold? I think that's a really important one. As we think about it, you put all these things together, and then it comes up with this score, and that's how you make a decision. I see a lot of people taking pictures. That's awesome. Take as many pictures as you want. You will get the slides afterwards, so everyone's going to get all the slides from today. That's really awesome. You can also email me, and I'll send you the slides in some sort of joke. So again, it's up to you. So it really doesn't matter which framework we're using, but we have to be using a framework. You can make up your own framework. As long as the people in your company are happy and you're using it, then it's a good framework. I like choosing one of these frameworks because it takes out some of that personal relationship stuff. We're following the framework. Right? As long as you implement it and follow it, you're doing a good job. When we're thinking about prioritizing which tests to do, again, let's go after that go big or go slow. Right? So sometimes the biggest gains that we're going to get are when we're addressing major issues. It's always fun to come into a testing conversation and say, well, what should we do? Well, I can think of some really nice things. Like, let's think about it and let's come up with these ideas on our own. Really what we would say is that let's figure out what's broken first, okay? We're not all blessed with 9 million users like Spotify, so we have to make sure that the tests that we're running are impactful and that are really going to make a difference. That fix versus improve, that's kind of the spectrum that we have to weigh these experiments on. Are we fixing something that's wrong? Or are we looking for some sort of marginal improvement? Fixing problems, this is where I would start with all of my testing. You can disagree if you'd like, but this is where we're going to see those big jumps. This is where we're going to say, look, we did it. So we get our biggest jumps in testing outcomes. We can try many different solutions before we then turn that over to the dev team. Right? Testing doesn't mean that we get rid of dev. Testing means that we prioritize better what we ask our dev teams to work on. And again, we can get no disagreement from the team. It was broken before. Hopefully now it's fixed. I love Google Analytics. I talk about it all the time. And it's so fun when you find a client website that looks like this. Because you're like, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity here, right? This is an example of enhanced e-commerce. It takes a little bit of work to set up your Google Analytics to have enough data to make these decisions. So we help with setting up enhanced e-commerce. This is the free thing that Google Analytics put out. Again, they're just asking you to send more data into Google Analytics. Tag your website properly, and we can get beautiful graphs like this. We can also turn these into remarketing campaigns, but that's a separate presentation. But when I see a graph like this, this is kind of my reaction, right? Something is broken. We're going to use our data. We're going to figure out what it is, and we're going to fix it. So I would say always start with the problems first. The other advice is to follow the money. Again, I'm a marketer, so this is really easy for me. So following the money is really helpful. So follow the typical conversion path. Where are we spending our most money? Where are we making our most money? Okay, so test all of those micro conversions along the way, right? It might not always be the last page that we care about, the end of the checkout process. It might be that home page, which is getting someone into the funnel to begin with. We want to make sure we're aligning and reacting to our marketing initiatives. Remember, if your marketing mix is changing, if the goals of your marketing team changes, so maybe we're going to be focused on new customer acquisition, well, guess what? Now your homepage is going to be getting a lot of different people to the site, right? So if the makeup of your audience is changing because of what marketing is doing, we need to make sure we're in constant contact so that we're showing them the right experiments on the website. Another case study for you. This one's not on Google, but it's a really good one. We like it a lot. So we work with Caesars Entertainment. We've helped them with their digital transformation. We know that they want to do a better job of connecting their data across their different platforms, right? Their whole thing is about experience. When you go to Vegas, you get a great experience, and we want to make sure that their experience online is just as good as the one offline. They're spending money on getting people to come to their website. They're using lots of different tech to make this happen. It's a really fun tech project as well. And when they bring people to their homepage, we want to make sure that they're getting a message that is tailored to them. So we're spending money to get people to the site through email or paid or whatever we're doing. And so they used an AI recommendation tool from Adobe to help with this. But they started to show different messaging based off of the personas that we were able to put them in. So booked versus not booked. Are they in a drive market where they can easily get to Vegas, or do they have to fly in? Are they more interested in entertainment or dining? And since they launched this, they found over 150% increase in booking conversions from their homepage alone. Right, so this is an example of where we're saying what's most important to us. We're following the money, and then we're making a decision about what to focus on next. And for them, it was delivering the right content to the right people on their homepage. And here's just some quick examples of how the page could change based off of what category it was putting you in. So we fix our problems, we follow the money, and then the last thing is probably going to be fine-tuning. I feel like this is where everyone wants to start. Everyone knows the stories about the 42 shades of blue, right? Everyone hears the stories about, I just changed the color of my button and my money went way up. This is going to be probably the last thing we're going to test, right? The fine-tuning is the fun part, but it's after we've already done that first stuff first, right? So we've already fixed the things that are broken. So we have to set lower expectations, right? We don't want our CEO to come in and say, well, if I made the add to cart button orange instead of red, I'm going to get a huge lift. You might. Let's try it. But I'm probably going to deprioritize that. We want to make sure we're setting lower expectations. And the smaller the change, we want to make sure that it's going to be something that is across the website. Right? So we're going to look for template changes, the product display pages. Instead of changing the red button on the home page, maybe we'll say on all product pages across the site, we're going to try changing that color. So it might seem like a small change, but it's actually happening across the whole site, so it gets a much bigger audience. This is just a quick one we did. CorePak is an industrial manufacturer. We came in to help them set up their testing team internally. So we wanted to help drive that culture of growth. And so their priority was they needed to make quick gains, they needed to prove success internally, but they needed to use the dev team as little as possible. So we focused on those template pages, the product pages. We made some small changes, and we showed how to roll that out at scale. It worked really well. Our team helped as a bridge between the other vendors that they worked with, between their dev team. And they saw a 31% increase in add to carts from just the experiments we started running. Even more than that, they were able to then take that testing and roll with it. So they were able to continue that after our engagement. So lots of ways to prioritize. Make sure you're following a framework. Make sure you're thinking about the bigger picture. Let's talk about how do we scale. All right, so do we have on our team the rock star, or do we have the band, the supergroup that works together? Right? When we're led by small teams, we tend to be more of the rock star mentality. We tend to have generalists on our team, someone that's good at everything. They need to maybe focus more on tech and training. You know, maybe they're good at the marketing side, but they need a little bit of help around HTML or CSS if they're going to be using a tool like Google Optimize. They wear many hats, and they are trying to juggle the priorities of the entire company. That can be really hard. We know that we're going to find some individual bias if we have a smaller team. The argument that I've heard on the flip side, though, is that maybe they're faster. Right? If it's just me doing it, and really no one's watching what I'm doing, I can go and bang out 10 experiments and just tell people later what happened. If we switch over to the team mentality, which is where we want to grow companies into, we see that we have teams of specialists. So I'm not going to play the role of the UX specialist. I'm going to say, here's my marketing goal. Here are the initiatives that I'm using to support it. But I'm going to lean on someone that's studied UX and that is way better than me at UX. When we have a dev change to the website, I'm going to pull in someone that's much better than I am at that. So we're relying on the collective wisdom of our team, the experience that we've used, and the people we've hired. We get a lot of different viewpoints, which are going to challenge us, make sure that we don't fall back on our own biases. And now we have the other flip side, which is it faster? Right? If we're segmenting all of these different roles, where one person doesn't have to juggle all these different hats, sometimes we find that's going to be faster. We have a team that helps come up with the ideas. We can prioritize them. We can quickly move that to the next person who's in charge of implementing it on the website. We've got another person that's going to handle the reporting. And it just becomes a well-oiled machine. From the concerts I've been to, here's our example of a soloist. He's playing, not even sure where he's playing. And then we get our big bands that have tons of people jumping on stage and fun stuff like that. So think about what you have currently at your organization and where you want to go. The rock star mentality, it's great when you're the rock star, but the band mentality is also really great as well. We want to make sure as a company that we admit imperfection. There's a great blog post by my coworker who wrote that the worst word that a marketing person can use is the word optimized with a D at the end. Right? We're never going to be finished optimizing. We're never going to be perfect. So we have to aspire to continual improvement. So how do we build a culture? I love this picture. If you've never seen the Oh Hellos in concert, they're a great band. This is a guy jumping and raging hard on a banjo, right? If he can get that excited about a banjo, we can get that excited about A/B testing. Am I right? Let's go. Woo! Communication is key internally. We heard a couple tips from Simon. I'm going to give you a couple tips as well. Communication is key. We have to make sure everyone in our company knows that we do testing. We have to make sure they know why we're testing. And again, it goes back to that aspiring for continual improvement. We need cross-functional teams in order to make this work. We need to celebrate our successes, but we also have to celebrate our losses. Right? Every test we should learn something from, and it's okay that they're not all winners. Right? We learn from that. We say, well, maybe we didn't make a big enough change, or maybe we picked the wrong hypothesis in this one. We want to make sure we're building excitement internally, and this all comes together, right? So if we're sharing our successes, that's going to help build that excitement internally. And we want to set expectations across the board. Again, we're not going to be able to increase every landing page conversion rate by 10%, but we're happy to take a look at it and make a recommendation. We want to make sure, again, that we're listening to our internal teams and our employees. We want to make sure that they're giving us advice. They're helping with the personalization process, and they feel included, they feel empowered. Another great resource from the How to Build a Culture of Growth, this is a really good one if you haven't seen this one. Sometimes in order for things to work internally, you need to say, well, someone else told us to do it. Right? If you go in and you say, well, my idea is to build a cross-functional team, you might get, not this time. But if you go back and say, John from Bounteous was on stage and he told me I have to build a cross-functional team. And look, I've got a white paper to prove it. Now it's going to be a little bit easier to get CEO buy-in. There's a couple great tips here. They talk about the key personality types that you need internally. You need people that are engaged. You need people that are the dreamers. They lay them out and they say, make sure your team is including these 3 personality types to help grow internally. You need to have a long haul roadmap. Where are we going? What are we going to do? We talk about measurement a lot. So apples to apples measurement. What are the metrics we're going to use? Is Google Analytics set up correctly? Are we doing it correctly? Can we measure it? Can we prove that it's working? They love focusing on small steps. Again, get your feet wet, get in there, get practiced, and then really start rolling out. And then they encourage smart sharing. I'll talk about sharing in one quick second. So here's the quote from Jesse Nichols. We learned something from all of our tests, but only 1 in 10 results in some kind of meaningful improvement. That should help us set expectations internally. Right? Testing is not about always winning. Testing is about trying things. It's about learning from things. And then growing from there. A quick case study. This comes from TicketMaster. So this is not someone that we worked with, but I spoke with Glenn at another conference, and he gave this great example of how they decided to build a culture of growth. We also saw a microsite earlier for how people were using a microsite to monitor that page performance, right? I love the idea of a microsite for internal distribution. Glenn talks about how they have all of the tech tools. You guys know, you probably have them too. You've got the Outlooks, the Gmails, you've got Slack, you've got Basecamp, Jira, right? How do we keep people updated and excited? So TicketMaster created an internal microsite to include more people internally, share the results, share resources that they were using, things that they can link out to. And what they saw is a 33% increase in stakeholders and a 15% in velocity. They have an approach where everyone in the company can suggest ideas for what to test. Then they go through a framework, and then they pick the right test, and then they go from there. This is a really great example. There's just a couple pictures of it. You get to the homepage, they're showing what's currently happening, what are our goals for it, who suggested it, things like that, a little bit of a description. They have a win page. Again, they're talking about all the different things that are happening on their website. I believe these are not real descriptions if we're looking at some of the test ideas. Right, so this is really important, again, to share the wins, and then my favorite, right, is the fail page. Right, so celebrating those failures. We made a hypothesis, it didn't work, we learned from it. Okay, and here's what we tried next. With that, I want you to go forth. I want you to take what you've learned. I think we had some great speakers today, and a lot of what people said it was recapped in my presentation as well. So I want to make sure that everyone goes here with some takeaways. Right? We want to make sure that we are listening to a lot of different people to determine what tests we could run on our website. We want to align our marketing, our UX, and our other teams. We want to implement a framework, it doesn't matter which one, and stick to it. And we want to inspire a culture of growth through inclusion and listening. So getting more teams together, getting more people involved in the testing process. And then my personal favorite, go to a concert. Thank you guys. Happy to answer questions, and come see me at the workshop tomorrow. There you go.
Thanks.